What would happen if Trump were to have a third term? Would that make him a dictator? Because there is kind of precedence for this, meaning that in Argentina, El Salvador, Argentina, Bukele had the legislative body, he had the Supreme Court, and although he's supposed to run for only one term, he changed the law so that he can run again. And I don't know if that's considered a dictator, but if you can change the law so that you can run again, and then if you can change the law so you can run again, then you can run again and again and again and again and again. He's a young guy. He could be president for a very long time. Does that make him a dictator? And are all dictators bad? Let's unpack. Ooh. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to the Matt Kim Podcast. I am your host, Matt Kim, joined by my co-host, Mr. Peter Saddington.
I'm glad to be here with you guys. My heart goes out to you. Smash the like button. Welcome to the Matt Kim Podcast. We're going to be talking about dictators. Is that what's on the news?
Well, before you do, definitely go hit the smash button. Smash the like button. Smash the like button.
Hit the smash button.
Hit a button.
Check in, SAR.
Just do this. Check in, SAR. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're watching from. Because I really enjoy when people do that. Say, I'm checking in from Alabama, SAR. And I'm like, nice.
Nice. Checking in from Mumbai, SAR. Throwing the poo.
Poop flinging from Mumbai, SAR.
We're checking in. We're glad you're here. We got all sorts of ways that you can check us out. You can check out Matt Kim on the Instagram, on the X's. You can check him out on Discord. Make sure that you check it out and join the club.
And definitely go to Soju, SOJ.OOO. It is where the community has been hanging out. It is the platform that we are building. It is a free speech social discussion platform where you can share your ideas, where there's no algorithm to tell you that you can't say something, that your words are forever, which is a really interesting thing.
So you have to check what you say.
It is the way that we will become the record keepers of real history. Because what they do in history is that we live in a world of revisionist history.
Yes.
They go back and they delete the ideas that are contrary to what you want the narrative to be. Ooh. If you cannot delete words, if you cannot delete posts, if you cannot delete comments, then forever you actually are the keepers of truth.
Yeah.
Which is why Soju is so important, because it ends up being what blockchain was actually envisioned for, so that you have an immutable ledger of a record. And the things that people are thinking and saying, that's what it was supposed to be for, not only for when Lambo, which is now what it has become. But if we can become the record keepers of truth and of history, then even if it makes money one day, if it doesn't make one day, actually it doesn't matter. Because what we will have is actual truth.
So in Soju, there's a lot of reposting of other articles. I wonder if Soju, there should be this theme of, like, here's what happened. Right? Because there's a lot of, hey, here's what happened. Here's the article from CNN. Well, CNN's going to edit that article 9 ways till Sunday.
We should be screen capturing them, rewriting them,
right,
writing
because
the articles.
you could actually create real history. And what I mean by this, true history. This is what happened. Here's the screenshots. Here's from multiple angles. Here's multiple news. Screenshot it, not the link, because they're going to edit all the text later, right? And that would be a great wiki of actual happenings.
Correct, because Wikipedia can be edited at any given time. It is narrative driven. Reddit can be edited, and even the CEO himself has admitted to going in and changing and altering people's words, which is crazy.
When he's not happy.
So to be able to be the true record keepers of history where things cannot be changed ever, and people were like, oh, bro, give me the edit button. I need to edit. I need to delete my post. I need to edit. What if I fat finger it and I say something wrong?
Why are you scratching yourself?
Because it's like, cracking. I need the edit button. I need the edit button. And the reality is that in life, you cannot edit things you've said.
This is true.
You can go back and correct them. You can go back and explain why what you said was wrong or incorrect, or that I just fat fingered it. But the reality is that you can never unsay things. Once it's out there, it's out there. And giving the ability to people to edit, which most of technology does right now, is actually bad for human behavior.
Yeah, because we don't actually learn.
Well, no, takes away accountability for your words. Your words actually matter. And when you let people edit after the fact and pretend that you never said it before, you lose the importance of individual words.
So to get back to Trump, what Trump has said publicly
Yes.
is that he has not ruled out the opportunity for a third term, and there are ways to do so.
And there are people pushing this narrative also.
So we have precedents, right? We have the Singaporean president, what's his name? Lee Kuan Yew. And then we have Joseph Tito, I think his name is, from Yugoslavia, who reigned for a long time. I think maybe he's still reigning. We have a couple of other precedents where this has been set. Now, we obviously have El Salvador with this new benevolent dictator. So apparently it's worked. Though, if you look at Yugoslavia, you look at Singapore, you look at El Salvador, those countries are the size of Georgia.
Correct.
So, from a scale perspective, is it easier to maintain benevolent dictatorship over a landmass the size of Georgia? Probably easier than the United States. So there's a scale consideration there. But the precedent has still been set. And if we were to follow Singapore and Yugoslavia, and now El Salvador, there's a lot of tension around the means and ways in which they're doing things. Seems like it works. And so would American culture, Matt, do you think they would be prepared and they could take on a benevolent dictator like Singapore, Yugoslavia, or El Salvador?
I've been watching a lot of previous Lee Kuan Yew speeches. I've been doing some of his reading some of his writings, watching some of his speeches. Lee Kuan Yew is a phenomenally interesting person, right? He took the country of Singapore, which was poor, illiterate, spoke 4 different languages throughout the country. They had no economy. It was a mess. And he turned it around in a generation, and it is one of the highest GDP countries in the world. It is one of the most literate and educated countries in the world. And as a political system and as a country, they have gone 180 degrees from a shit country to actually a pretty amazing country.
They make all the silicon chips.
So, was it effective? Yes.
History says so.
In the process of him doing it, he has been unapologetic about removing dissenters, literally having them imprisoned. He was very involved in people's personal lives, changing the way people think, removing people's language, changing what people study and on what they're educated on, and even doing things like removing any sort of religion from anything related to government. I just watched a speech of him saying that the Muslims say that you have to do it this way, and the Christians, the evangelical Christians come and they say, well, you gotta be this way. And the reality is that if you let them do it the way they do it, it doesn't work. You have to get them out. So they are an extremely atheist type of country. Everyone speaks English. Everyone speaks Chinese. Could you make a country successful using that model? And proof says yes.
Yes. Now, have we done it at scale the size of America? No.
Correct.
But there's always compromises on either side, right? There's always going to be the naysayers and the people who are like, "Oh, you're trampling on my civil liberties. You're going into dictator mode. You're not allowed me to do that." It's like, but for the greater good is always the excuse on both sides, right? We're gonna shut you up for the greater good. We're gonna inject you with this poison for the greater good. You have to wear this mask 6 feet distance for your greater good. But then there's also on the other side of that, it's like, would you like mass murderers to go down to 0? Would you like robbing and killing to go down to basically 0? Would you like to feel safe in your own streets? Like every single report, and maybe there's bias there, because I've watched probably at least 4 or 5 hours of documentaries on El Salvador and the prisons. And for me, as an entrepreneur, it is a manufacturing and engineering marvel what they've done in those penitentiaries, what they've created, the systems that they've created. So for me, that's where my curiosity is. It's like, you ever watch like a Discovery show where it's like mega technology builds? It's like, holy crap, I didn't even know that humans were capable of building this type of machinery, like these huge dump trucks that are the size of this entire building. that was what intrigued me. But after going through all of that, when they do interviews, because they have to show both sides of the locals, all the locals there are saying this was good. It's you have militarized police outside your door all the time, but I can walk safely. My daughter feels safe. We can go to school finally again. We can finally go out into the market. We can have a Saturday evening dinner with my family for the first time. These are all the reports that I saw from these videos. And so from that perspective, from the locals, it seems like the vast majority of people would prefer safety over crime.
And the few people that were arrested wrongfully, that are sitting in jail, sorry, that sucks.
But you're always going to have collateral damage in any decision you make.
It's just a handful of people.
Well,
A handful of people are wrongfully arrested
same thing with this
and put away forever.
Same thing
with
with this,
no chance of ever getting out. Like that's
and no due process.
And no due process. It happens.
It's part of the collateral. Here's the liberal vantage point is always what you say. We have to include the margins.
Correct.
Margins are part of this, are what we call in statistics statistical anomalies. You remove the statistical anomalies so you can have a baseline data set that works. If you include the statistical anomalies, then it's going to offset all of your average, your means, and all the data. And so in any type of major decision of policy, like ICE and getting rid of all of the illegal aliens who are in our country illegally because they are not documented and legal. That's what we're focusing on here for a second. Is there going to be a couple that are going to be wrongfully imprisoned? Yes, it's part of the statistical database and data set. It's going to happen.
What is the acceptable margin of error then? I think that's a really interesting question.
If we focus on Lean Six Sigma principles, then it would be 6%.
6%. So if a million people were to be deported over time, then we accept the fact that 60,000 people will be done incorrectly. And if a million people get arrested, 60,000 people wrongfully arrested, it's okay.
But
that's a lot of people, by the way.
That is a lot of people, but
I'm not saying one's right or wrong. I'm just.
I think I'm incorrect on Lean Six Sigma. I think it's lower than that. I think it's 0.06.
6,000 people.
6,000 people.
Yeah.
So 6,000 people out of a million is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And good due process post would say, hey, we wrongfully imprisoned you. Sorry. Here's
sorry.
Here's your check. What did Delta give all of those people? $12,000 after they capsized? Was it $30,000? Okay, so not so bad. Here's $30,000 for your troubles. Sorry, we capsized the plane. Is what it is. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, here's $30,000. Sorry, we wrongfully imprisoned you. Sent you to El Salvador prison, and maybe made it to Guantanamo.
Okay,
but outside of that, we're sorry.
6,000 people.
30 grand.
But 6,000 people out of a million. If you think about it, it's really not that bad.
Well, this is the problem, right? Because if you want to make this type of radical change, and I'm not completely anti-benevolent dictatorship. I think that benevolent dictatorship actually, it may be the best model, actually, for radical change within society. And if a society is going, a political system especially, is going so far off track, maybe that's the best way to bring it back. But the problem with benevolent dictatorship and dictatorship in general is that often the people didn't get to choose that dictatorship. That dictator became the dictator after they got in for another reason. And maybe if we were electing a benevolent dictator, maybe that election would have been different. So that makes it really interesting there because they get that position through a power struggle and power game rather than actually the wishes and the desires of the people. So, but then if you had a choice to say, hey, everyone, this election cycle, we're gonna be choosing the next dictator for life. Like, how does that even happen? You know what I mean?
It doesn't happen.
Exactly. Someone always has to take it by force.
Yeah.
And then the person that takes it by force, is that the guy you want? Because he is willing to break the rules to take things by force, meaning that there are certain flaws in that person. Because obviously it's not for the greater interest because they're willing to break the rules. Meaning once they get into power, wouldn't they also break the rules? Even if it's their rules that they're setting.
Well, yes.
It is this crazy logical loop that you get stuck in.
Well, for the populace, yes. But for the dictator, no. Because a dictator is a dictator by definition, so therefore they can do whatever they want. They can change the rules whenever they want. They can go left, and then they can go right. They can go straight. They can go backwards, forwards, up and down whenever they want. And that's just the latitude that you are afforded as a dictator. I think the question that always sits on my mind is, how do they ensure that their power as a dictator doesn't move to malevolence? Right? How do we move from a benevolent dictator to a malevolent dictator? And from my understandings of what Bukele is doing in El Salvador, he's making sure that his administration is as transparent as possible. I remember watching something that I had to give him props on, and it was just like, you don't know if it's for part of the game, it's part of the show. You never know. But man, it sounded so good, and I'll try to repeat it here. He essentially was saying, why did we have so much malfeasance? Why did we have so much backdoor dealing? Why did we have so much pay for play in all of our government agencies? Why do we have all of that? And one of his ministers off to the side, and this was a live broadcast, he said, because they were not transparent. Right? And he was like, yes. What we have to do is shine light on everything that we're doing so that it's always transparent, so the people know what we're doing. Now, will they know the planning? I think he went into talking about that. Will they know the plan? No, no. But will they see the outcome, and will they see the strategy exacted? Yes. And will they be part of the retrospectives? Yes. And could it be part of the game? Could it be part of the play? Maybe. But damn, it sounded good, man.
But isn't that the argument for the Trump administration now? This is the most transparent administration in history.
Yes.
That's what they tell us.
That's the narrative.
Same with Bukele. That's the narrative.
Yes. And will we, because we don't live in El Salvador, are we on the ground looking at the TV and going, no, we know you're lying because I know my homie who works here and here, and no, this country's so small, there's no way you're not doing it, you're a liar. The difference in America, we live here, and we can smell the bullshit. Right? We know Doge is not as effective as they say they are. We know Doge is addressing political issues when they should be addressing the bigger behemoths and bigger elephants in the room. Right? We know that there's a lot of backdoor dealing still. And man, have you heard about the JFK stuff? Like his blackmail stuff? You haven't?
RFK.
RFK, JFK. Have you heard of the RFK stuff?
I haven't looked far into it.
Okay. Anyway, so my point is America, we know that it's BS. We smell BS. They're not as transparent as we think they are. With El Salvador, maybe they can be because the size and scale is so small. Maybe they truly can be.
How many Americans do you think would be willing to give up personal freedoms for a better life? Because that's really the trade-off. So if you can guarantee that going down this third term of Trump, maybe a fourth term of Trump, maybe some sort of passing of lineage to another Trump, if that would give you more safety, if that would increase the education system, if that would increase the economy because there's stability, if that would make you stronger on the world stage, if that would close the borders, if it would solve over the time all the things that we kind of wanted to change. But the trade-off is that you live in a more surveilled society because you can't do these things without more surveillance. You can't have more safety without more surveillance. If you have to have a less freedom of speech society because you can't have dissenters everywhere, like you have a goal you want to achieve.
Yeah.
If it meant that you had to give up some of your civil liberties, but at the end of the day, you would have a better life. How many people do you think would actually make that trade-off consciously?
That's the key word, consciously. If you left it up without the qualifier of consciously, I'd say 98% would do it unconsciously. Like they would just accept it as this is the next flavor, this is the next thing that I got to do. They told me to yield. I yielded. They told me to put my mask on. I put my mask on. They told me to distance myself 6 feet. They told me to inject myself with poison. Like, yes, Amasa, check in, SAR. Like, I did it. Yes, I don't like the fact that they're doing this again, but you know what, man? I really need to watch the WNBA. It's so important. They don't allow me to watch, the Reese girl talk about how she's so awesome and that she's the best shit since sliced bread. Like, I'm not going to feel like I have access to the important things in my life. WNBA is really important to me, Matt, and I'm willing and accepting of these new provisions so that I can do that. Like, that's 98% of people. Now, you say consciously.
Correct. Because that's the thing, right? In America, we're given at least this illusion of choice, that we actually have a say in how the country runs, the direction in which it goes. We're told that constantly, that our voice matters.
Wrong, SAR.
If that's true, then we should at least be given the conscious choice to make the shift. If they were to make these changes and take away our choice, then we're essentially taken over.
Yes.
Should we be given the choice? Or for the greater good, because there's a lot of collateral damage, and we've accepted that in big change, a certain amount of collateral damage is acceptable. Is it acceptable?
Well, the answer is no. It's not acceptable to just have your government take over things and just not detail them out or give people the foreknowledge of that it's going to happen. So the short answer is no. But would it be the right thing to do?
Because there's two options, right?
I think yeah.
If you want to improve the country at scale, you either have to choose to give up your freedoms in order to make systematic change, or you have to let the people in charge take the power and let them force the change.
Yeah.
But regardless, in order for there to be change at scale, because when we're talking about the United States, it's too big of a country hey, let's just make micro changes over time. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Do you want the choice?
No, you don't.
Because it wouldn't happen?
It wouldn't happen. No, there'd be too much blowback.
So we're okay with Trump saying, we're going to do a third term. And then this is what it is. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I understand you guys are upset, but you have no choice because for the greater good of the country, yes, there is collateral damage. We are going to deport some of the wrong people. We're going to imprison the wrong people. Yes, you're going to lose your freedoms. Yes, you're going to lose your freedom of speech. Yes, you're going to lose your freedom of assembly. Yes, possibly even your pursuit of happiness. But one generation later, you're going to thank us because we made it better for future generations.
But they wouldn't say all that.
Of course, they're not going to say it, but that's
right. They would say, you're going to own nothing and be happy about it. Right? Is what they're going to say. But let's do a simple scenario. Do we want industry to come back to America? Yes. Do we want to be self-sustainable when it comes to food? Yes. Do we want our educational system to be the best in the world? Yes. Do we want our social services for those who need social services, like the elderly? Do we want to have the best social services on the planet? Yes. Do we want to have opportunity and access to opportunity for assertive and initiative individuals, initiative individuals who want to grow a career or build a family or do well and be successful in life? Yes. All 5 of these, yes. So, if Trump were to say, I'm going to take over farming and make sure that we are self-sustainable, we're going to have the best organic food ever, I'd say, yes, more SAR, please. We're going to get rid of the Department of Education. I think we're already doing that, aren't we? I think we're already doing that, right? Get rid of that. And let's make the best educational system on the world. Yes, do more of that, sir. Let's get like, if you were to go down this list that I just went through, and you say, we're going to do all of this, and these are the means and the ways that we're going to do it, take me over harder, Daddy. Take me over harder.
But isn't that what...
why not? Why not?
So that's what Trump is essentially doing.
Why not? Take me over harder, Daddy.
And he is making deals with the technology companies. Instead of fighting with them, let's let them do their thing. Let's grow them out, make them bigger. Yes, and it means more surveillance, but it is what it is. We're trying to hit a bigger, larger goal. Let's work with different countries. Let's work with China, and instead of making them our adversary, let's just make all our deals, because why should we fight with them? We should just be constantly growing. Let's forget about the negatives of having Israel around too much. They actually own a lot of the banking. They own a lot of the media. They own a lot of these things. Why should we fight them? Let's just accommodate everything that they want. Because for the greater goal of moving the United States forward, there's probably a value there. You're saying all that is okay?
No, I disagree with the means and the ways. I agree with the outcome, which is better manufacturing, better infrastructure, better roads, better farm, better education.
Which I believe we'll get.
We want. But when you say let's get better farms, better infrastructure, better education, better opportunities for Americans, and the means in which we do that is China
And Israel.
I would say no, sir. No, sir.
But those are the cards we have on the table. These are the things that these countries individually they're high competency areas. Israel is very good at banking, surveillance, and media.
Okay.
China is extremely good at technology, manufacturing, and pumping out product at scale at a very fast rate.
And for cheap.
So there is value in both of those alliances.
Yes.
The Middle East, places like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they are very good at getting us the resources and minerals that we need, which is why we see the huge strategic alliance over there. We are gathering the pieces to make America great again. But I don't know.
Well,
is that the only way to make this happen?
Man, I mean, we're talking about world building here. Not that you would know anything about that, Matt. Anyway, but for those in the room who have any knowledge about world building, you have to include global trade. You have to include global economic policies and considerations and infrastructure and supply chains and all of that stuff. Yes, but can we lessen the dependency on these other countries? I think, in my ignorant view, Matt, absolutely. I think America has all the minerals, all the oil, all the manpower, all the ingenuity, all of the creativity in America as it stands today. Can I say something that sounds hard? It'll sound like this. Close the borders, nobody else gets in. We got everything we need. Can we make agreements, tariffs, trade agreements where it's like China, we're going to leverage you heavily. Israel, we're going to leverage you heavily. Japan, right? Singapore, Europe, we need those BMWs, right? Like, we're going to leverage you to grow us, but do not be deceived. We are going to phase you out.
Well, so
I think that would be, if Trump were to say, we're going to phase out our dependence on all of these other countries, I'd say, take me over harder, Sar. Yes, for the greater good of America. Now, I hope that you keep your strategies and tactics of how you're going to do that transparent, because what we've seen before is the whole, here's the bag, I'll let you hold the bag, here's the promise that comes with the bag, and the promise ends up being nothing, and you end up just holding the bag, right? We said we're going to do X, but we're not going to do it.
So these are two separate discussions, I think. One is this idea of benevolent dictatorship and a third Trump presidency okay? Versus, should we do it by engaging with the outside world, or should we do it by engaging on the inside world? And I don't know if that changes the argument for anybody, actually. Because if you say, okay, I don't mind the idea of benevolent dictatorship, because that's a third term would actually be the precursor to that, right? He's not leaving. If you allow for a third, he could do a fourth, fifth.
Israel's done it, right?
Correct. Netanyahu's been around forever.
Yeah, the Ukraine guy's done it recently, right? He didn't hold elections.
Correct. So again, there is precedence for this. If you were to do it, if you say, okay, I'm okay with having a longer term leadership in order for there to be some sort of continuity, in order for the United States administration to create longer term plans, I could see the argument. And then it becomes, okay, if you're going to allow that to happen, then do we do it by doing externally, which is what Trump is currently doing, versus do you want it to be interior only?
I think it should be more interior. We have the skills. We have some of the most ingenious people. They're not incentivized appropriately.
Okay.
They're not paid appropriately, right? They go all into defense, areas where they can make $500,000 a year. Their system's broken from an incentive issue. There's not enough incentive.
If Trump wants to do a third term, then in order to even make the argument, he would have to show progress. Because if during his term there's not enough progress in the improvement of American society and American economy and improvement of the country in general, then no one's even going to entertain that third term.
He has to go Weimar Republic levels of change.
But
there was an Austrian painter who turned his country around in like 3.5 years.
But he cannot, I don't believe, make enough change within the United States if he stayed America only, because the systems aren't built for it. There's not enough cash going around.
He's getting stonewalled on everything he wants to do anyway. All these signatures, all these things that he's saying, right? I mean, they can all get stonewalled through government.
And they're just executive orders. Executive orders is more like, hey, this is what the government wants to do. It's not actual law.
And you saw the Jon Stewart video of him realizing that how much waste. You saw that video of him going like, oh. Will, did you see that video? So it recently came out that Jon Stewart finally realized that the Democrats are truly the problem. And he had a guest on that was essentially TLDR. Long story short, the guest was showing him how inefficient our government is. And Jon Stewart was like, no wonder we're bleeding money everywhere. Like,
it was a female guest, right?
No, it was a male guest.
Oh, no. Okay, maybe.
Guy with glasses. He looked like
what is gender anyway?
Yeah, he looked like a Yudin. Anyway, so they're both Udins anyway. The point is that we have so much waste, and our government, as it stands, here's the problem: Trump can't just announce he's going to go dictator. He has to just do it, because if he announces it, then our legal system and the judiciary branch and our legislative branch and all that stuff would just cockblock him no end.
Okay,
he literally has to coup himself into it. He's to
if you were Trump and you were like, I'm going to go full dictator.
Yeah.
What would that actually look like?
A dictator requires military backing just to be able to you can't just wave a fat stick in the air and say I'm going to do this. You actually have to have people that say, yeah, the stick's real.
So you'd have to start taking control of the narrative and the media mechanism. You would have to start removing people that are anti to your message and your plan. So you'd have to start removing government officials.
But you have to start with the military. If you think about all the coups that the CIA has helped with in all of these hundreds of countries over the last decade, it all started with funding the opposing side militarily with munitions, weapons, things that can back it up. So that's what Trump has to do first, is he has to first get the blessing and get all of the commanders and all of the lieutenant colonels and all the leaders of the military to say, look, I'm going to steamroll this bitch, right? I'm going to steamroll this bitch, and you guys have to come with, because I can't be wagging a big stick around the air. I need actual munitions and firepower behind me to say, look, we're doing this. So that's what he needs. He needs to have the military behind him first, and then he can steamroll.
Well, okay. So we get to 2028. And it is now presidential election season. And on the ballot, people look and be like, Trump's running again?
Yeah. Actually, there isn't a ballot this time. If he wants to go gangsta, he has to. There is no ballot this time. That's what the Ukraine president did. He just said no ballots this time. I'm just staying.
There are a lot of people that would be extremely upset.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's Trump. Even if it was the best idea ever. And it was extremely well thought out, which I doubt it's going to be. But even if it was extremely well thought out.
I like this thought experiment, though.
And he had this immense plan that was like, dude, this is going to work. And you got a lot of people that are supportive of him to be like, all right, I don't really like this dictator thing. I don't like this third term thing. But you know what? I could totally. Fuck it. Let's go.
You're never going to get that pushback, though.
But there's still going to be those people that are going to be like, I don't care. No matter what Trump does, I hate it.
But we're never going to hear from them because Trump will own the state-run media, just like Bukele does, and dissent is nothing. You never hear dissent anymore. No, I'm like, let's go full bore. If he starts with the military, then he says, military, we're going to war game this, and the war game is going to look like this. On this day, you guys are going to take over CNN. You guys are going to infiltrate CNBC, MSNBC. You guys are going to go to the radio stations. You're going to take that over. We're going to go to the CDC. You guys are going to take that over. We're going to go to. I mean, it's Like it has to be a coordinated plan. So when the world finally hears about it, the only thing you're going to hear is Trump, the benevolent dictator, has taken over the reins, and the entire American population has given their overwhelming support of this new initiative and new phase of the American dream. And
every cover of every magazine, every news,
Exactly.
it will be no one works harder than Trump.
exactly, and
Do you see him? He's leaving at 4 a.m. and
Exactly.
he's still working.
exactly, and
Not that we've never heard that
and
before.
if there are dissenting voices, you'll never hear about them. Why? Because
Do you lock him up? Do you gather him up? Do you send them to an El Salvador prison? Do you put them in Guantanamo Bay? Do you just silence them? Do you remove them from the content creator economy? Like, how do you get rid of them?
no, you say we have a place for you to.
Are we putting them in concentration camps?
No.
You know, like, where do these people go? Where do these dissenters go?
It's easy. They go.
There's millions of them.
Yeah, they go to Reddit. You laugh because you know it's true. You want to have a dissenting voice? Go to Reddit.
And you lock them into a digital echo chamber.
They're already 99% anti-Trump anyway. Like, you're amongst your people. Like, be free. Right? That's what Trump should say. Be free. Just was that Bane? Be free.
Is that how he says it?
Yeah, doesn't he say that on the steps of the town hall? He goes, "To you, my people, be free."
It sounds Korean as fuck.
That was a Korean accent.
No, I'm channeling the Bane, right? The Bane is be free, my people. Right. You are unshackled by these Gothamites. You know? That's what he said.
Because all of these people that are out there currently advocating for a Trump third term, which is actually a growing crowd of people, by the way. Like, we're 2 months in and people are already advocating for a third term.
It's probably bigger than we think.
And which is interesting because we actually haven't seen the fruits of his efforts yet. We haven't seen the improvements that he's promised yet, but already people are crowning him as a third term president, which is interesting that narrative is out there.
Man.
Almost artificial, by the way. But, I mean, that's crazy.
So let me ask you this. Now, you qualified the whole idea with a lot of no-nos, like, no right to assembly, no free speech, da-da-da-da. Most everyone's going to be like, no, I'm not going to allow that. But if you don't bring that up.
Oh, don't bring up the important things. Okay, hold on. If it were to happen, those are the obvious things that we should be looking out for.
No. When a dictator takes over, the last thing you care about is your free speech. You care more about your sovereign rights as an individual to
Have free speech?
No. Free speech is no. You want the ability to move freely. You care more about the body than the voice. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that you can get bread. You want to make sure that you can go to your job unfettered, right? Because there are some places, like for example, like Palestine, you cannot go to anywhere unless you go through 5 police stops, get frisked and anal raped, and then you can go to your job, right? So there are prison camps that are in existence. There are literal open concentration camps in these terrible places around the world that citizens actually have to live like this. That is what you'd be concerned about. Do you think the people in Palestine care about their free speech? They care more about surviving the day because they're under a dictatorship, right? They're under a war-torn, right, situation.
Okay. Fast forward to 2028 again. Here we are. 2028.
All right.
Okay. Trump says, I'm running for a third term. And let's give him the benefit of the doubt that his second term was actually very successful.
Yeah, he did. He did some things.
He did some things. The economy is good. The AI overlords are taking over, and we've going to this deflationary event where people can have more time. Because that's what Elon Musk is saying, right?
Can gas go to 89 cents? That would be nice.
That AI will be deflationary and that things will be cheaper. You can work less because AI will take a lot of those roles. Actually, you can get back into focusing on things like art and creativity and enjoying and more just content consumption. Like, you have more time for yourself.
Did you end up buying those eggs for church?
I don't know. I think we're waiting for Easter. Maybe we'll buy the Korean eggs. And
because we want eggs to go down under Trump.
Of course.
Yeah, the price has to go down.
And the interest rates go down, and the pricing houses also go down at the same time, which is interesting how that would possibly work. But the economy is good, and everyone's got money, and like life is better. 2028, he's done the things he said he would do. Greenland is a part of the United States now. Canada is part of the United States now. BlackRock, although they own the Panama Canal, like they're still like BlackRock is the good guy now, not the bad guy.
They're letting us through. It's good.
Like the central banking digital currencies, we're all worried about that, but the stable coins end up being good for people because we can trade faster.
Right.
All the things that we kind of worry about, they end up being good.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to do a third term. Where do you sit?
I read the...
Life is better. It's more safe.
Let me qualify this.
Yes.
Give me a second. I read the comments.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in the community around Matt Kim podcast that think like I'm your antithesis. Like I am a bad guy. Like I am so maybe black-pilled that I'm like I've accepted like the terrible realities of our future. So some people comment and they're like, man, Peter, man, fuck that guy, Peter. He's always he's talking negative, or man, he wants to get taken over. If things are going as peachy as you say,
the economy improves.
Yeah.
And again, it means that once you give a president a third term, it opens up the argument for a fourth term. It opens up the idea that you can pass down into maybe some sort of monarchical system. It opens up the floodgates to any possibility.
And so my short answer is, with all that qualification, saying everyone's saying I'm black-pilled and I'm over the hump and I've given up, shut up, first off. But number two, yes. If everything is going well as you say, and he's done this good job, I am open to extensibility of his reign. Why? Let me qualify two things. Number one, the American experiment is we're the newest country on the planet. Think about this. Like one of the newest countries on the planet. Now, there have been some countries that have been broken up and resubstantiated, like Russia, USSR, understood. But the American experiment, 1776, right? The American experiment we are short duration in the span. Like if we compare ourselves to China, like we're not even a teenager yet. Right? We're still a green bean. We're still a 3-year-old child when it comes to a nation building in this experiment of America versus a China, right? So I say within the early cycle time of this experiment, this American experiment, why not, sir? Why not? People were going to comment, Peter's given up. He's part of the Borg. Matt, kick him off. He's terrible. He's part of BlackRock. No. I'm speaking from a pragmatic reality. If things are as good as you say, Matt, why not? Why not? Let's keep the party going. Right? Ain't no harm, no foul. Let's keep the party going.
How long does that last, though?
Until the wheels fall off is how the song goes, right? Let's keep the party going, man. No, remember, you did not also add in those qualifications that we lost free speech, we have chips in our brains, right, and all that. Right, we are controlled by the digital monetary system now. Fair enough, you did add that, so I will concede that. Right, we are controlled by the our phones. Right, I get that, but that was a small cross to bear, in terms of everything else that you've said.
Anytime we shift into any country shifts into this kind of dictatorship model, even if it's a benevolent dictatorship, you lose your free speech, you gain, you lose your personal rights, you are more surveilled. Like that's table stakes of moving into this system.
But that's going to happen anyway, Matt.
That's true.
I mean, are you and I so great a man that you and I could stop the coming behemoth that is tech surveillance? Are you and I big enough men to stop that?
Yes. I think that although
Matt's putting his body on the line here.
Well, it's a really interesting question and really interesting thought, like if it's better for society as a whole, will you sacrifice? And how important is freedom to you, really? And
Man, damn it. I tweeted that this morning. Fuck.
You know, how important is the idea of freedom? Is it worth being free if you mean you and your future generations have to live kind of poor?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it means you have less convenience and modern convenience, and if you have the ability to less potential mobility, economic mobility, is it worth losing your freedom? I don't.
We've talked about this, and we've already volunteered the younger men without kids and without a wife. It's like younger men, you have the latitude in your 20s to be the stronger man. Now, it's not that we can't, but we have compromises to make if we were to do so. Right? I tweeted this out this morning, 4 hours ago. I said this: you have not stretched yourself nor challenged yourself to the point of death. You have nothing to fear. Like, I'm going to call myself out on that tweet. Let me repeat it. You have not stretched yourself nor challenged yourself to the point of death. Now, why am I going to call myself out on that? Because the reality is I have truly never done that. Now, can I bloviate and pontificate about how hard I am at the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, tested myself? And yes, I can. But at the end of the day, I too am a hypocrite. Because if you lay a question like this on me and say, are you willing to sacrifice your body for true freedom? The answer is, I'll tweet about it. Right?
I think that if the United States loses this battle, if the people of the United States, the United States citizens, lose this battle in this concept of actually freedom, of sovereignty, of autonomy, I think that's it for everyone else too. I think that's why the United States is so important, because if this falls, if this experiment falls, actually it's going to happen all over the world. And maybe we get lucky with a benevolent dictator. I'm not saying Trump would be the one, but what if, right? What if the United States gets lucky with a benevolent dictator? The rest of the world will crumble, and most of them will fall under bad dictators. It's actually the only thing currently, this promise of freedom in the United States is what's holding up the system of fake freedom in other parts of the world. If the United States falls, the rest of the world falls. And then it's just a matter of, okay, when do we go into this true one world government? One person just rules everyone. And the argument is, okay, well, as long as the United States is the leader of the one world government, I'm okay with that. A lot of people think that. Which, I don't know, maybe that's true too.
It's good to be on top.
As long as you're the country on top, then it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of the model that...
Everyone else is under the heel.
That's kind of the Trump model right now, right?
Well, America is...
I'm going to put everyone underneath this umbrella and we're going to be in charge. So, yes, it's one world government, but it's our one world government. So it's okay. So what are you guys worried about this new world order, one world government for? It's ours. You're on this side, so you're okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that plays for me.
America in the past...
And that's super America first, by the way, if you really think about it.
But if we look at history past, America has generally been the heel on the rest of the neck of the world.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
And,
right?
I mean,
we are the boot.
Accentuated. It's essentially accepting that that's okay, right? That the United States will be this imperial guard that looks over the entire world, that the United States will be the person that, or the country that decides what freedom means, will be the one that decides the direction in which technology goes, and maybe we'll make people in America feel a little more free because we are the hill in which people aspire to be. And the rest of the world, you guys just have to live under oppression.
And this is why, in the comments, in all the community, why the vast majority of people in the Matt Kim podcast community like you far more than me. Because I'll make these hard-edged proclamations, and you'll come in and say, well, America still is the best. We're still the shining example. We're still... And we heard the rhetoric during the election season, right? The election season was... Right, even from Elon, this is the most important election. If democracy dies if we don't vote Trump in, right? The world is watching. Some of us kind of took that bait, hook, line, and sinker, and we're like, "Damn, I need to go out to the polls." Like, democracy dies, right? This is the end of the world. And so there was a lot of
ironic, by the way, because they said this is a fight for democracy, but yet now we're fighting for democracy.
Again,
Again.
of course, it's kind of like the war on terrorism, right? That terrorism will never go away, and so you're not wrong, and I appreciate your perspective, Matt. In that what you are saying, if I can recapitulate it back, would be that America is the example of what democracy, this experiment in democracy, is supposed to look like. Flaws and all, warts and all, imperfections and all, America's still better than the other option.
Yes.
And you would say, for the greater good of American longevity in the timeline of history, is America can never go dictator, because if they do, then the shining example has fallen, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Fuck, that's deep.
But how much do you have to actually care about the rest of the world versus care for yourself? You know, like, we're both parents. A lot of people are watching our parents. We're like, I get the greater mission and greater good, and I get the fact that we want to make sure that the world has its resemblance of freedom, but I need to protect my children. I need to protect my grandchildren. I need to protect my great-grandchildren. And if this is what it requires for us to get there so that they live in a safe society, if that they have a possibility of upward mobility, then we need to do this. I can kind of understand that.
I totally understand.
I can totally understand your viewpoint, but I don't know, man.
It's a tough. Well, I have conflicting biases.
I think they're gonna lock me up if this goes down this road, and they're gonna be like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna start locking up dissenters. I'm like, bro, I may be fucked.
You probably.
I'm probably
Probably.
because I don't think.
Let me wait. Here's the magic 8 ball. Yes is the answer.
Because the argument,
Most likely.
at its core, the argument is, do the ends justify the means? This is the essential discussion, right?
Yeah.
If it means better society, safer society, less freedom, safer society, were all the steps that were required to get there worth it? Even if it means that we have a lot of collateral damage.
And the road is paved with blood.
As long as it's not your direct blood, then can you look the other way? Does that matter?
Well,
If you're not active participant in it, then is that blood on your soul? I don't know.
Well, can I emulate what I saw Hillary Clinton do on an interview one time? We came, we saw, he died. Your taxpayer money blowing people up. If we were to take the politician's route would be yes, the road will be paved in blood, but it'll be okay for the greater good.
I don't think I could have that on my conscience, knowing that I supported that. Because in order to get to this area of benevolent dictatorship, in order to get to this road of having this kind of utopian society that they want to create, and I don't think Trump and his cabinet are going, damn, I hope we really fuck up this country in order to do it. I think they have like long-term goals, and they're thinking, we just got to do whatever it takes to make sure we get there. I don't think that's horrible. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I don't know if I could do that. I'm very much in the camp of the ends are meaningless if you don't do the right means.
And that's why your name will never be remembered. And I say that facetiously, but that's the tension that I always have. The tension that I always have in life as a man, and I'll just speak plainly here, is am I willing to work hard and try to do amazing things in life for myself and my family? Yes. But how far am I willing to go, right, to make that happen is always on my conscience. And there's always something else on my conscience that I'm always battling, is the greater good. And I'd say certainly the last couple of years working with you on the Matt Kim podcast has certainly opened that up in my mind even more. Like, does the world matter to me? I'd say after the last couple of years working with you, the world matters a lot more to me now. And it's not that it didn't matter a lot. It's just when you were forced and smashed up against new people groups, new worldviews, new ideas, new ideologies, new hatred, new dissent, new models of thinking, which Matt Kim Podcast has certainly done for me. I've had my appreciation for the global stage, even as a world traveler and who's lived in so many places, has grown in so many powerful and great ways. But at the same time, I battle with this: do I care if my name will not be remembered in history? Am I willing to die for this type of stuff, like talking about the truth and trying to help people unplug from the matrix? Is that the battle that the Lord has put on my soul for me to do? Is my body ready? Is my spirit ready? Is my family ready for? I wrestle with that sometimes. Like, is this something I'm willing to fight for the greater good? And who the fuck is listening? Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I think every man has to make their own decision at the end of the day. And what I appreciate about this conversation is it might sound odd in just a span of an hour or so, but even in this small conversation, I feel humbled.
I think that we are stuck in this global historical cycle of ends justifying means.
Yeah.
It's the basis in which every world leader makes their decision. And because we all world leaders make their decision under that premise, societies just fall over and over and over again. Every society out there, actually, if you think about it, it gets worse over time.
Yes. And they eventually go away.
They all go away.
They all go away. I mean,
why doesn't it work? Why, with all these smart people, with all these great ideas, with all this new improving technology, it should actually be the opposite. Society should always be improving, actually.
yeah.
But somehow, some way, society always goes the other way. And maybe it's because we use this model of ends justify the means. What if we were to try as a society for the very first time, really, where the means are more important than the end? What if we lived in that type of society where how you do things actually matters, where how you treat people and how you, even if it's not the best economic decision, maybe if it's not the best power play, even if these things were not true, but it's the moral thing to do? What if we just made right moral decisions constantly over and over and over again? We actually don't know where that goes because we as a society have never actually tried that before. It's always what happens, what are the decisions we need to make to justify this goal?
Well,
What if we stop being so goal focused and we start being focused on like what's the right actual decision to make right now? What if we stop planning so far ahead? What if we start living in the moment? What would actually happen to society? I don't know because we haven't tried it.
we haven't tried it, though. For some reason, I keep thinking about this Austrian painter who tried it, and it worked out pretty well until
It didn't.
it didn't. And what's fuzzy to me is how it all came crashing down. I think there's many players in the world building for him, and I don't know exactly whether it was one people group specifically, but there were a lot of actors at play in the downfall of that. But it seemed, again, just from history, and even the naysayers of all the fuzziness that happened, pre and post World War II, we all agree, historians agree, that pre-World War II, he did a damn good job.
I think that, as you world build, as you try to take a country further, the obvious thing to do that most people do is, okay, we have our own view, we have our own ideology, we have things we want to do, but in order to achieve goals, we need to make deals. We need to make alliances. And every time you make a deal, you actually do a little bit of sacrifice of your own ideology. Right?
Yes, and your sovereignty, because now
Your sovereignty.
Yeah.
Because now you're beholden
Yeah.
to other countries. Now you have treaties you have to account for that may not align to your true mission.
Yeah.
You have business deals that you have to, in any business deal, both sides lose a little bit. But if you're not considering the other side, what that means is that the United States, every time they make a business deal, is losing a little bit every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Because every time you make a deal, it means you don't get everything you want. It's a deal. You negotiate.
It's compromise.
Meaning you're constantly compromising over and over and over again. And you do that compromise in that we want to further a greater good and a greater goal. I get that. Again, I do totally understand that. But we're put in a situation where we're just constantly compromising. And the compromise just build up and build up and build up. And now we're a shell of what our original mission was.
Absolutely. And that's why Doge is uncovering the compromises on compromise on compromise on compromise where nothing gets done. And you end up paying $275 for a nail from the Department of Defense because that's what they charge you for a nail now. So these compromises have equated to massive waste, massive dysfunction in the way that government operates. And so to clean it all out, flush it all out, right? Maybe a benevolent dictator, and Trump saying, again, we got to give him the next 3.5 years to exact his will. But if everything, again, from your hypothesis comes to pass, better, everything's better under Trump.
I'd probably never make a good world leader because I think that how you do things actually matters more than the result. And for probably leading a population of people, that maybe not be the best way to. I don't know. Again, we've never tried it. I think my viewpoint is just way too utopian.
Yes,
and it's probably not the best way to see the world to be effective and get things done.
Well, that's what and I'm not equating you to the Karenocracy, but the Karenocracy is a model of let's make sure everybody's okay. Let's make sure everyone's in agreement before we do anything. We don't want to offend this minority here because the minority is actually more important than us, and their voice matters. They're retarded, but DEI practices ensure that they were part of the game. You're not that person, but to make decisions at a policy level that affect a multivariant base of human, with statistical outliers included, the furries, because we got to include them, you will offend, hurt, and dismay many. Well, that's why you would not be a good leader because you, and it's going to come off as, you know me, I love you. You're too weak from that judgment call decision. You don't want to hurt people, but in the game of politics, you have to be willing to hurt people. That's the game of politics. As a businessman, you can make decisions unilaterally for your business that doesn't hurt anybody. You know this because you've run businesses. If you're in policy, if you're in politics, you will never satisfy everyone. It's impossible. So if you don't have the willingness to have the thick skin to say, there's going to be collateral damage here, so there's going to be some blood on the streets, you're not cut out for the game, Matt, and that's not a bad thing. It just is what it is.
I think that I get that. I think that
I'm too weak. I'm too weak for that too. By the way, I'm in that boat.
I think if you are the president of the United States, for example, and your stated goal is we want to be a free society, we want to be America first. Whatever the stated kind of North Star guiding light, unifying factor is, then there needs to be zero variance of that one thing, and then at the edges, maybe there's variance. You go accept some people, certain decisions will be okay with people, not be people, but you can't delineate from the core.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, is that when you're operating such a large country, that you start stripping away the core beliefs in which you have. You say, we believe in free speech, but actually you can't say that. We believe in freedom of movement, but yet, no, you can't go there.
Yeah.
The people's voice matter, but at the same time, no, we actually don't want you guys to vote.
Yeah.
Your
uncompromising stance is why you will not be good in politics.
But I think you have to be uncompromising in your core. Be compromising in the fringe, be compromising in the edges, because you need to do that in order to move forward.
Well, there needs to be continuity.
But I think the problem is that for most government leaders and most world leaders is that they're willing to sacrifice and compromise on their core.
Everything is the answer. That's why you would not be a good politician, because you would not. You are uncompromising in certain values, as am I. Easy example that I talk about and no problem bringing up every time. If you're going to say, Peter, you're going to be a leader and it is what it is, we have to send money to Israel to bomb other people, I would say, nope, not interested in that at all. But Peter, you have to sign. No, I wouldn't sign it. Well, then we're gonna delete you from the timeline. I'd say, well, I probably shouldn't have chosen this path because I knew going into politics, if I in that leadership role, that would be a compromise that I would have to make.
And it's so easy to say that when we're doing that as a thought experiment and hypothetical.
Yeah, but it's also obvious as to why you and I are not in politics.
But if you have
we
to
don't have the spine for it.
if you have to make that decision and that decision actually impacts millions of people,
Yeah.
then now you're like, fuck, all right, like send them the money.
But some people love that shit. Like you can tell Hillary loves power. Like whenever you see her in old interviews, you can see she just loves the power. She loves being able to push the button and delete people from timelines. You don't have that, Matt. I don't have that.
People at home, people watching, let me know. Do you believe that a benevolent dictatorship is possible in the United States? Is it something that we should allow? Because it's not something that we will choose, but it's something that we will either allow or disallow.
Should we try it?
Is it worth the try? And if you try it, is there ever coming back from it?
Oh, there's no undo button?
There's no edit. There's no delete.
Oh, fuck.
See you guys next week.
I need you, Clippy. Where are you? Clippy.